Alrighty then, hello folks, Popery.com here, Arden Pills at the mic, and this time it's some legacy action for you guys. On the left, that's Merfolks, and on the right, that's stuff in Texas. This is in part to actually get to revive some legacy memories because lately in the past few months I haven't been actually playing the format all that much, and there will be some decently important tournaments in about a month at the end of January, even though I won't be piloting one of these decks most likely, but there's still a chance, and I just have to kind of prepare my mindset. Probably my weapon of choice will be mud, which is basically brown, well, not stacks, but brown prison, whatever. Carless deck. You know it. Anybody who plays Legacy. Here there was a Plains into Violent turn 1, which I countered by force pitching Curse Catcher, which is probably one of the weakest cards in this matchup. It's mostly just creatures and equipments. There are very few instant or actual sorceries in Death and Taxes. Here I believe that was Wasteland into attempted Stoneforge Mystic, and I was tanking for a while because Mystic is very dangerous for fish in this matchup. So Mystic prompted me to spend another force into Lord of Atlantis. Notice that I didn't really have a don't really have a second land here. No, I did. So that was actually Wasteland on his Wasteland. Sorry for the visual representation. Both decks are from the same guy on the right, and it's only one set of files and Wastelands, so we had to figure out something. And now a second Stoneforge Mystic resolves and takes the bane of my deck, Sword of Fire and Ice. Really annoying card, probably more annoying than Jeet in this matchup. Second cover, and of course the Merfolks, and then that's the Pearl, whatever, Master of Pearl something, because it's the very last addition to the deck as far as the Legacy version is concerned. So I didn't really get the chance to memorize the name of that card. Everything else been there in the deck for years, so, and I've been playing the deck, I guess, since it became actually a playable deck in Legacy. Probably something like 2008 or something. So Stoneforge puts into play Sword of Fire and Ice here. I suppose there was no reason for him to not to do it on his turn, but I'm still surprised because knowing Merfolks, there are very few ways how this could go wrong. Even though I have Python Needle in the sideboard, but it cannot enter play at instant speed, so he would have the chance to respond. But if he didn't do anything, he would have a chance to represent a lot of things. Tapped 1 mana, 2 mana to equip the Fire and Ice. Tapping like this so that I cannot waste his lands before I try to do something funky. Sword connected, and he shoot away the Lord and draw the card and play the Vial in addition to this. A pretty miserable situation. I don't know exactly what kind of cards Merfolk should have in order to get out of this. I think this member is very important in the sideboard because unlike stuff like Snap, Vapor, Snag, or Echo in Truth, you get to actually kill a guy with the sword on it, so because it's protection from blue and red. So this is an important part, but that's just in the sideboard. I'm just showing his hand. It doesn't really line up with this board where I'm so far behind. Merfolks cannot really splash anything. Once they splash second color, they become really vulnerable to land hate. It's one of the appeals of the Merfolks is that even though you have Covern, which actually helps you to castle your Merfolks, but then the fact that you don't really run fetch lands and okay, Motaval Wastelands are gonna be used anyways. Motaval's okay, are vulnerable to waste, but that's fine. You can accept that. But because there are not that many non-basics and no fetch lands, matchup against Timur Delver is much better than it could be if you go splash any color. And also, even though Stoneshware Mystic is a big part of Legacy, but the days where it used to be one of the defining cards are gone. So a lot of the time you're playing against some weird combo or miracles or deck which doesn't actually have white. So for example, like Shardless Bug. What I mean here is that Sword of Fire Knights is actually gonna appear against you way less time than you think it would. And yeah, Death and Tax is still a relatively popular deck, at least in paper, because lots of people have it and a lot of people are drawn to it because it does have ways to play against combos and it's an aggro deck basically. So it's not the hardest deck to pick up. Adapts, not from the vial, just from hand, revealing Mirror Registry because vial only had one counter at this point. He had a Mother of Runes on turn 1. Of course, I'm gonna tell him to locate his cards better once at some point I actually checked up the image. This, I think, could be Talia. Mother of course is annoying because I think already at this point I had a Muzaw's Jeet in my hand. So preventing attacks with the cheat are kind of annoying. No, was that Mystic? No, that was Talia, which I forced pitching Lord of Atlantis. He knows about Regery in my hand, but I think Regery going to be more effective than Atlantis, simply because Island Walk doesn't really do anything in this matchup. So that third land is a wasteland here, just for your knowledge. Now I'm thinking what I can do. Of course I can just hardcast Miro here. And actually Miro's ability to tap stuff is quite relevant against Mother. Opted to cast the Jeet first, just kind of funky. My hand I think was the latest T-Mana Lord and Ridgery. My plan was to actually violent the Lord here this turn, I suppose. He got his own Wasteland, and I think here it's okay to use it in my Wastelands. think he has a carcass in hand, so he has more lands. He decides to uh, pass here. I've seen a glimpse of him having the Cersei plowshares in his hand, so he's probably gonna sword one of my guys. I think this is kind of dangerous. Here I'm not really playing around him blocking, but no, like I have violent free, so I can violent the Ridgery, so that's fine. Even if let's say he swords the Lord and then blocks with the Mother, but then again I would have counters, which he really wants to prevent. He knows about the Ridgery in my hand, so yeah, yeah. Here it's the point where I'm trying to, with a pause, figure out a way for people to actually see any of his cards. Why there is such a huge difference is actually because all his stuff is double sleeved, and it's bane of my living, bane of my recording live. It's just that it makes those bubbles and they reflect light and etc. It's just the air, and also the fact that like it's two layers. This time a Stoneforge Mystic actually resolves. Well, it did resolve um, once in game 1, but it's the kind of thing that normally if Merfolks can counter, they have to. Unless they're very far ahead. It's actually that's what I decide to do because we've Jito already in play and some creature. Okay, he has a Maverick still in play, but Mystic could actually pull him back into this game. Although there is an argument for just violating Ridgery end of turn and just hoping to draw another Merfolk so that I could tap a Mother and then attack with the creature and the Jit. But resolving Mystic is so dangerous, really. I don't know, like it was probably incorrect to counter Mystic at this point, but then it's hard to say, like, if I would know that what I would draw, but there are no scry effects in Merfolks, so I didn't want to gamble. I probably wouldn't counter it if I would be a bit more ahead than here. So there was a Seer Avenger in his previous turn, and my hand is True Name and Force. I can violent True Name, but I decided to not violate and then equip, just so that I have the option of actually using the Force of Will and have a blue card to pitch in the worst case, but the odds of that happening are very slim, because there is very little that he can do with an active True Name. Therefore I decided to just play this way. So while then at his end True Name, his turn was only about the Vial. Now in my turn, equipping Vial to True Name and bashing for 4 actually because of the Lord in play. The correct line for him with some mana untapped is actually to sword the Lord here first. So this actually, because he would do that anyway. He can't do anything to True Name really that much. This is still before sideboard, so he should have sworded the Lord to take 1 less damage and just cap on his stuff better. So he missed that. He decided not. He didn't use the sword even end of turn, which is weird. Okay, he drew his own Jet, but the problem is that I don't know how he's planning to race. Okay, he has gas in hand while I'm hellbent, essentially. So attacks are free with the Syrah, but I will continue in bashing and getting counters with the Jit. That means more counters to kill his guys or gain more life. Even though Swords gives me 2 life, but it's really hard to figure out how he was supposed to race here. Now he uses the sword, but that's very mana inefficient, I think. He could have saved 1 more damage and had more mana this turn. Things like that. Even with Avenger plus his own Jit, I don't think at this point it's possible for him to raise the true name. I get enough counters to kill Sarah Avenger, and now I don't know. Like I don't think there is any point of return for him in this game. If it would be sideboard games and he would actually have sideboards that I would use instead of the one that he was currently using there, just not really changing the sideboard he used during our country's legacy championship a few weeks ago. Okay, it's true to say that a lot of these games in this matchup are decided by a true name plus an equipment, or and on his side, say Stoneforge Mystic for Sword of Fire and Ice or Jit. But if there is no Stoneforge involved or true name involved with Jits, the games are actually much more interactive, and there's actually a bit of depth to it because um, there are quite a few decisions that you have to make each turn. Including what to pitch to force, or whether to counter something at all. Stoneforge coming down. I believe what he has is Italia in play, in addition to the Jit. I think here I'm just trying to kill that Talia with the counter from Jit. He has the option of just Caracas it back to hand. I don't even know why he played it here, just to get a counter of the Jit. That's not very efficient. He has a Brimaz in hand, and something tells me that there are only 2 counters on the vial. I'm vialing a Lure of Atlantis just to sneak in more damage. With the true name, 3 counters on Jit, and okay, so there were 3 counters in his vial. So Brimaz came to play end of turn. Now I believe the draw for him was Sarah Avenger. Not 2 Shabs. But me with an active true name, there's so little he can do while he's so behind on board. I'm telling him to tap out properly because there's no wasteland on my side, and because he has a legendary creature in the form of Primas here, he might as well keep up Caracas and the castle. Primus and the kitty token comes in to the red zone. It's actually not very straightforward. How do I block here and how do I use my counters? I had an option of just not blocking at all. Here, because this is a practice game, I'm gonna see what happens if I take this and that line. I think, regardless of what I'm gonna do here in the end, I think the correct um, line at while I'm at 16, just to not block at all, that will actually um, provoke him to use his counters from the JIT to kill the Lord of Atlantis. This way, it will be very stupid because he can just prevent the 2 damage to Bremas. So the counters on my JIT don't do enough. If there would be 4 of them, sure, they would do something. So I actually do something very stupid to some extent. So with 1 counter off, I kill the token and I still block the Lord. I don't know if that's correct. I think I shouldn't have blocked at all. He would most likely just kill the Lord anyway, and then I would have enough counters to actually kill the Bremas. And here I'm doing another stupid mistake, which we decide to quickly rewind because it would be just really stupid. Somehow I missed the part where he could just pump his guy with his own counters from the JIT. So let's say if I didn't block at all last turn, he would kill the Lord of Atlantis, no counters on JIT, and then I would be able to actually kill Bremas with my JIT. Also, I could have just killed him this turn by just pumping the True Name, I believe. Let's say I didn't spend any counters at all the previous turn. I had 3 of them, and then I would pump 3 times. That would be +6. That would be 9. He would only have 2 counters, so that's 4 life. Perhaps this will just put him down to 1 and not little. Let me see, because I just attacked and not pumped, so he was at 6. 3 pumps, that's 12. Oh no, wait, 9. No, what I could have done was, deal 9. And he would just gain 4. So he would be at 10, but I would deal 9. Yeah, he would be at 1. He would be at 1. Well, I attacked here once, but then he realized that he cannot really do enough damage here through 4 counters on the JIT. And True Name, even without counters, well, it was representing lethal, but then it will be a war of counters. Counter wars. And not in the usual sense this word is actually used. So definitely bringing this member helps against Sword of Fire Ice for sure. That's for sure. A Coin Truth is also fine. Just a tempo spell. It's realistic that he might have multiple copies of something. So he's bringing Oblivion Ring for sure. I'm trying to make up like the other cards he's bringing in. Python Needle is amazing for me in this matchup. This is something that he probably wouldn't mind to be using. Before I figure out here from the screen like what stuff he was bringing in and out, I know for sure that the stuff he's not bringing in is Council's Judgment, even though he's supposed to have it in the deck, in the sideboard, for matchups like this. But because he thought that there will be less of the true name decks or stuff like this, or situations where you could, I don't know, cancel judgment to kill off, like, let's say, omniscience. So those days are gone, basically, because they, I believe, now banned dig in legacy. So there is no omnitail really anymore. So instead of running cancel judgment in the cyber, he decided to play a couple of will Leaf, that's the 4 mana dude. It's like a Lux and a Smiter or whatever. That's the one that if they, let's say, go Liliana and make you discard, then you can put it into play. Same for him to Tark. So he's taken one Tally at least, and then a Windmare. That's the 3 mana Talia, basically, the flying one. I think he's taken out a Flicker Wisp or something. Well, my sideboard is very straightforward. 2 Needles, Accurate Truth, 2 Dismembers, and I'm taking out one of the 3 Phantasmal Images, and all 4 Curse Catchers. So here you see him actually explaining the fact that, like, no Council Judgment. So he sided in only 3 cards. I think the third one was Enlightened Tutor, just to find that to find a Oblivion Ring for my equipment or something like this. So yeah, I talked him into bringing in one tutor. I'm not exactly sure, but I think he brought in a Wretched Bomb, which is definitely good in this matchup. Okay, it's a bit awkward with his own 2 mana spells or 3 mana spells, but it's fine. So we're thinking like what to take out for this one tutor. He's thinking about Mirran Crusader, but Crusader plus equipment equals a lot of butthurt for me. It's probably not the card he wants to take out. Tutor is card disadvantage, but a lot of these games are decided by few particular cards, and sometimes it could drag the whole game along with it. So let's see what he decides upon. So yeah, second Talia is out. I think there's like one Talia left in the deck. Yeah, it's not at the best in this matchup. That's true, but the thing is that why I don't want to cut all copies and why I wouldn't feel like too bad of keeping some in is because a 2 power first strike body is actually relevant. And it's also a 2 drop. So slows down my removal, slows down Force or Vial. So it does something. Still, I cannot, for example, sometimes lay down an equipment on curve, things of that nature. So it's not actually that bad, but it's definitely not the matchup where Talia is at her best. It wasn't definitely just one Flicker Wisp in the deck, and that's, I think it was one of the cards he took out. Castle into Mother Runes, bit annoying, but I had a needle for it, and switched off Mother is not a threat, really. But Stoneforge Mystic is, so that's why that it's a force. I'm tanking to decide which card to pitch for the force here. I think it wasn't easy at all. I think I pitched the Ridgery. Mother attacked for 1. That port on his side is really annoying. It's really annoying, while I think I'm kind of mana choked a bit here. Lord of Atlantis is not doing much, but now he can uh, cast a vial and still keep up port activation. Now the Mumbo Jumbo starts, but the thing is that he's gonna keep on forgetting to take some damage from the canopy, because canopy doesn't make careless. You can only sack it to draw or make careless and take pain for it. So he's at 17 now. He's virtually at 16. He's casting Seer Avenger, which prompts a force from my side because I don't want a free flyer to stick to the board. Board activation to try to slow me down. He has a Flicker Wisp in hand, which he can't put in yet. Cast a Jit attack with the Lord. Vial, I believe, is up to 2 at least, but 2 is not free, so I don't think he can vial in the Wisp. Caracas came down on his side, so no more mana to do all kinds of stuff. Port is pretty big here, still. I would be able to equip Lord no matter what, so second port will be quite annoying here, I suppose. Unless I draw a land. Flicker Wisp could reset Lord of Atlantis or reset Jit. But once Jit will have counters, casting Flicker Wisp is not a great idea. He's wisping the Lord of Atlantis, but I think with active Jit and me having a creature, he's in a bad spot. Forgot to unflick the guy, but we know that it comes back on at the end of his turn. So it's not summoning sick. I can attack with it this turn. And he's tapped out. He used to port me. He's supposed to be already at 12 actually, because he kept on forgetting to take damage from the canopy. And because I was so concentrated on my game, I didn't really pay enough attention to that part. Okay, attack with Dolor. He blocks with the Flicker Wisp. They trade. I get 2 counters. One I used to take out Mother. But because there is a Needle in play, I don't think I should have been so fast to take off that counter to kill Mother. Okay, if he has a Flicker Wisp, like he can flicker Mother in response to removing the counter, but then I would still have counter, so that's not amazing. Tried to deny him of like drawing out of this, so I waste his canopy. The port is not really an issue here. Caracas is only an issue if he has something like Bremas. Other than that, Caracas is not a huge deal here. What he needs here is more removal. Or creatures with equipments to actually get through and do something. So far, his draws weren't amazing. Now I got a creature to equip the Jit on. Think he filed in what? 3 drops. So I kind of think that's a. It's not a Flicker Wisp. I think it's a Mirror Crusader. Yeah, it is Mirror Crusader because I remember this board state, and okay, now he casts Seal of Cleansing. The fact that you play this over something like Disenchant is the Enlightened Tutor, so you can tutor for this Disenchant effect. He bashes in with the Crusader, and you know what's gonna happen next if you know what Mirror Crusader does. And obviously, he should have used this seal to kill the Jit before attacking, at least, and definitely not attack at all as like once he sees actually what's gonna happen. But we know what's gonna happen, so I took out the last counter of Chit to make his guy smaller, and then block with it to prompt a trade. He understands that, but decides not to rewind the whole thing, and then he vials in a Flicker Wisp to actually flicker my Lord of Atlantis so that his guy still lives. Doesn't blow up like the seal yet because he can respond once I actually spend mana to equip the Jit. I don't have much to do here on my turn now, so that's why I provoke him to do that. Just a second lands before giving him the turn I attack with the Lord, because he doesn't that probably doesn't want to trade Flicker Wisp for the well, for it wasn't Lord of Atlantis, was the other one. This pretty much the same guy. Now he attacks with both. That's 7 point of damage because of double strike on the Crusader. He pours me on the upkeep, which is definitely fine. He's actually supposed to be at 9 because he missed 3 damage from the canopy. Attacking with this guy. Before attacks, he decides to just cash in the waste on the Motavolt, which is fine. It's something that he would probably have to do anyway, but there was no rush with it. And it was still the same 2 damage this turn. So replacement Wastelands and now attack for 7. I'm going down to 1 this way, I think. I was just trying to see whether there was any hope, and it was just Force of Will. So yeah, Mirror Crusader is a beast in this matchup. As funny as it is, just 2/2 double strike is sometimes just good enough in a creature matchup, and especially with an equipment on it, it's just almost impossible to get back, because there are cards like Dismember and stuff, and trying to trade with it with your own creatures, but the latter probably almost never happens. Alright, preparing for the next game. So that will be the 4th one, and the second after sideboarding. It's hard to say who is actually favorable in this matchup. Death and Taxes definitely has a few very powerful creatures in their own, like Crusader and Bremas. But On the other hand, Merfolks have a bunch of true names into Phantasmal Image to copy it, for example, or let's say copy a Mirroring Crusader from his side. So, and outside of Council's Judgment, Death and Taxes can't really deal with those cards. Turn 2, Adapt, show an Adapt, so drawing a card. There was no turn 1 play on either side, but there might be a play at the end of my turn 2. Swords Plowshares takes out Adapt, just to maximize the value from the lands. And now back to me. There is a Stoneforge Mystic that fetches up a Sword of Fire and Ice, so there is that. My land number 3 is Mutavault, and let's see. So I got a few options what to actually cast here on turn 3. Mystic is annoying, and he did get Swords of Fire and Ice with it, which is one of the worst cards for me to face. But I think the fact that I debated what to do here kind of telegraphs that I have a solution to either one of them, and I believe that was a needle in my hand or a dismember. Don't remember exactly which one it was of those two. He does have a land number 3, which is a Caracas. He has also Mirroring Crusader, another Stoneforge in his hand. It might be even just 2 Crusaders. So I think he has replacements in hand for both. Because he wants to get that Sword of Fire nice online, he passes the turn. I go for Dismember end of turn. I think I forgot to take buttload of damage from that Dismember, so that just happened. He responded by casting Sword of Fire and Ice. So I'm supposed to be at 14 here. That's an ugly proxy wasteland for his Caracas to try to slow him down. My own Vial. And then I was debating whether to attack with the Motorvolt for a couple of damage here or not. So yeah, sorry for me missing life loss from the Dismember, but well, that happened. So be it. But I did have in fact a Vial for his Sword Fire Nice. I think 2 damage didn't matter, but being mana efficient and have Vial out there for the Fire Nice might be actually better. He didn't draw land number another land, so he can't cast his Crusaders. So he did cast his second Mystic, fetching up a Umezawa's Jet. Draw for the turn. It's another land, which is real good, because now I can animate Mutavault, equip the Jit to it, attack, and take out his Mystic before he can use it or have a body to equip the Jit, anything like that. We realized that actually the best line is to not block for him here, so he should be at 18, and that will provoke me using the counters to take out the Mystic instead of just blocking with it and me keeping the counters, because unlike swords, Cheetah doesn't care whether you dealt damage to a player, the creature just needs to deal damage. So only something like Mother of Runes or Sacrifice effects can prevent that. Things of that nature. Bounce effects, of course. He does have the wasteland for one of the mutavaults here, but now I drew the trump of this matchup, which is true name plus a Jeet equals almost unlosable situation. That wasteland that I had earlier to slow him down for a turn was just an enormous thing to have, because this way he wasn't able to cast something like a Crusader or Flicker Wisp or whatever. His Fiery Ice is now shut down because of the Nero. So the Wasteland was really huge because he's not dead to uh, to the next attack, and he might not die like to the second wave. So this basically extra turn matters a lot. Another wasteland to take out his wasteland kills one of the Mutavaults, but the second one is free to try to do stuff, but I don't really have to do that. Especially without any Lords in play and him having, I believe, a Sea Revenger in play. But because I would definitely have the counters from the cheat after this attack. So I did actually decide to attack with everything, which is kinda interesting to me, looking back at this match after a few days. Okay, so here is the equalizer. There was a Vilden Lord. That meant that no matter how he blocks, I would be still fine with the outcome. So the Lord meant everybody was free power attacker, so everything meant he would have to trade his guys for the other stuff. Still stacked on lands. Like, yeah, the wastelands were just massive. Even though I don't remember whether he drew his third land. Okay, he did. But if he wouldn't, this would be pretty much it. He attacks with both Scavengers. Puts me down to 9. Then a Flicker Wisp comes down. Probably the best target for it is just to try to reset the Jit. But I use it to, I think, gain couple life and take out the Flicker Wisp. Yeah, True Name plus Jit is just too ugly for aggro decks. Of which there are not that many in Legacy, but Death and Taxes is one of the best examples. Then maybe something like Chant is another example in Legacy. So yeah, attack of everybody, including True Name, which was equipped again. And now, no matter how he blocks, he's gonna end up taking, well, okay, 6, that will put him to 3, but then he would be without the Avengers, and I would still have True Name with 2 counters on it. Well, not on it, but on the Jit. So yeah, not super very interactive when you draw those particular cards, but yeah, I still think even in a metagame full of Bog or Sultai decks, while Will to Leaf Lead just gives you maybe like a bit of an edge, but having Council's Judgment in a wide metagame probably worth it, and I still like the card better than the extra benefit of Run Nillage. Okay, happy holidays. There will be more videos coming up soon. So until the next sale, goodbye. Goodbye, folks. Bo Bruce signing out.